I was very much expecting something that was not orthodox. Playing Danielle as part of the chemistry lesson was, I'd say, a very, very challenging one, but really rewarding, because although it's a really dark story and sad, to hopefully a more, I don't know, lighter world. It starts with some really, really heavy and difficult subject matter. I think when you're dealing with that, it's good to do as much research as possible and try and get the story right from all angles. Um, and so Danielle was very, very challenging, but again, that's almost the more rewarding. So with regards to my performance and how different it really was to a radio shoot, I think I can put it in a way that this was completely choreographed. The sound the sound designer and recorder was actually having to move alongside to meet the performance, and it did feel. I mean, it felt almost like it was being captured on film. It felt as if there was a camera that was on a dolly or a moving line following me. It's a weird one because I sort of had to switch my brain off from my again what I expected and what you presume is the way of capturing the story. It was on location. I was in position in situ. We created the foley in situ, and that's an amazingly exploratory place. It feels like you're um, sculpting almost with the natural environment. And in the choreography of it, I remember we had to try and figure out a way to make it sound like I was climbing up a tree when in fact I was climbing down. So it was all this kind of reversal of, as the sound recorder was coming up, which typically, it sounds like I'm climbing up the tree. I was actually coming down, but he was recording it upside down. So it sat. I don't know, the physics of it make my head a bit wonky, but it's that thing of, if in the recording of it the directionality is focused down, and I am also climbing down this tree or something, but it had really good bark. And so I was sort of clambering down this tree, putting all of my rock climbing experience into absolute overdrive as David's microphone was coming up to meet me. And then we both descended the tree with the reversed microphone. And then that's where, at the bottom of the tree, most of the action took place, where for the audience's perspective, it sounded like the top of the tree because of the mic reversal. Um, and and that was kind of like, oh wow, there is that. In stage combat we learn about something called reversal of energy, where if, for example, somebody's grabbed my chest and is pulling me, they actually need to push against me and I need to push against them to make it seem like the same amount of um, tension is there, but it's actually very, very safe. So that's what I was trying to achieve in that particular moment, where descending the tree was actually putting the same amount of effort in as climbing it. Um, yeah, and then other than that, it was just kind of about weaving the two elements together of sound recorder and actor coming in and meeting and following the action and being very, very acutely aware and precise about where the emotional beats and the directions needed to be in order to make the immersive binaural experience just that much better. Because of the audience being so close, you have to be really aware of that. Um, it's a very, very different style of performing, and the script too. It required a different sort of level of heightened emotion. Um, yeah, quite. I wanted to take in as much of the external environment as possible to relay that to the um, into the story. So I was looking around and spotting various things, which I would do usually, but it's a lot easier when you're actually in a park or in somebody's garden to see something natural, for example, not rather than being in a studio and you have to kind of conjure up a butterfly out of nowhere, to be able to see a garden and imagine which exact leaf the butterfly is on and speak directly to it. That was there was a special moment there where I felt I was able to hit the emotional beats of the story without it sounding too fabricated and artificial. What drew me to this piece as an actor and as an artist was that um, not only was it taking place in a new medium that I'd never come across before, and so for me, expanding my technological proficiency in the world that is coming in, I felt that reflected in in the piece of like, I don't understand this new world that's coming through, but let me try. I want to be able to try and figure out if this might work, in terms of what my acting career might go down. Would it Is it a potential? Is immersive voiceover a potential medium that I could delve into? Um, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the experience of it. As kind of awful that is to say about what the actual character's going through in that moment. That's what drew me to it as an artist and as an actor. Was me asking myself the question: can these stories be told in new ways? And can new stories be told in even newer ways? That's what I love novelty, and I love taking people out of their world, which is quite harsh and a bit blunt and just not very empathetic and compassionate and a bit mean. And can we take people out of that using technology and offer them a space to escape, as well as understand a bit more about the people in their lives? I think as an actor, we're our job is to pretend to be other people in order to tell a story. Having it being around her father's, as you said, bigotry, that really um, helped define the responses and the reactions that Danielle would have had to things in the past. So I didn't have to kind of build too much backstory in. The conflict is what story thrives in, and is what people really like to watch. And I think, or listen to in this case. And whenever I've heard people talking about ending their life in a way that is destructive, I think for me, for my sort of consolidation of that material, kind of on a very shallow basis, is it's all to do with pain, and it's all to do with pain, trying to evade pain, or at least let it cease. And the ceasing life means ceasing the pain. Um, and it's just how people go about doing that. In this case, it was a very clear: I am in pain and I want it to stop, but I need the people who have caused this pain to understand that at a human level. Almost fighting fire with fire in a way. It's sort of, if you're going to cause me this pain, well, I'm going to cause you the same pain, because I can't. There is no other way. There's no other communication style other uh, than hurt and yeah, pain to get through to Johnson. I think that's what Danielle is picking up on, a communication style that she's been indoctrinate or just grown up with. Not maybe indoctrinated is a bit harsh, but it's that when you grow up around a certain language, and if that language is pain and violence, then you're going to react in a similar manner. At the moment, I have just in the last 6 months have graduated from Royal Birmingham Conservatoire, where I received a master's a distinction in my master's in acting. So I am currently an actor looking for work, whether it be role play work or voiceover work, TV, film, stage, etc. Um, I am involved currently in a project called Girls on Fire, which I am doing the music direction for, which is why I'm in a random room in up in the north of England. Yeah, further in that, I suppose my aspirations would be to continue my music work, and to bring it into the acting world, whether it be telling a one man show with music, which focuses on a man loosely based around myself who has a gambling addiction, and he faces his demons through the help of an unexpected friend in the space of a half an hour. I would love to see a short film version of it. So that's sort of where my hopes lie for my own work. Um, in the sort of immediate future, and then further down the line, I'm hoping to get more consistent theatre work and television and film work as well. As actors, you are often given other people's work to interpret, um, and that is a very amazing skill. But I think when you're creating a character, starting from the writing stage and starting from the bare bones, there's a wonderful process that happens when you have to let go of, and I'm sure writers have to undergo that feeling where you produce something and you create something and then you have to let it go. I suppose bringing other people into the experience. So when having a critical eye on something is really hard if you've not let it go. I think if you're really precious about something, any criticism or any kind of thing that's going to try and make it more accessible to a further audience becomes, I don't know, I get protective and I feel like I can't let other people engage with it because it is so personal to me. But if I go through that sort of conversation with myself of no, it's okay, these people are only trying to help, they're only trying to make it more accessible, then it becomes, oh, actually I need to step back, I need to start having a more critical eye on my work, and I need to start viewing it not only as the audience would view it, but as another professional actor would. If I had given it to them, how much would they stick my story full of holes and needles and examine it and try and rip it apart in order to rebuild it in a way that their performance does the character justice, rather than doing the story justice, if that makes sense. When it's a self-created character, um, there is no there's nowhere to hide. It is me, and it is me playing a version of me. But when you've got an audience that is there for a very specific purpose, you have to. I feel I have to change my self-reflection on that, in that way of myself, so that it becomes more reachable and more credible and ultimately more entertaining. The difference between performing a role that has been written for you or written by somebody else, versus producing your own work, there's a big distinction in terms of where the examination comes from. Rather than it coming from the outside in, it has to come from the inside out. And there has to be a different set of tools that you use when producing your own work versus when you're examining somebody else's writing. It's a very difficult decision to decide what to play and what not to. Um, Obviously, there are going to be things that are really that do cause offense, and that it's. I think on the other end of the spectrum, there's a really difficult thing where, looking back in our history, and from where our stories have come from, it's a very difficult thing to play people who have certain amounts of bigotry, and that doesn't feel comfortable either when you're, as part of a script and as a part of a story, when you've got people who are acting in radical ways to hurt other people. um, I think as actors, we our language is empathy, and we're trying to empathize with um, with characters. I spoke to one man when I was up in Scotland who said that um, actors use the tool of extreme empathy, and that is really challenging when you're playing people who are um, who don't have the same values as you, or who don't have the same experience. You know, you might one day you'll have to play somebody that is very very similar to you, and then next you'll have to play somebody that's vastly different, not only in their maybe their physical characteristics, but also their mental and psychological characteristics. Um, nobody's the same. We're all different, but when I look at people who have to say things that are from a different time or from a different value system, because it's important to the story, I think they're also making a similar judgment call, in that it's about the context in which you find the characters, and it's about the yeah, it's a very very challenging thing. I think there's a different challenge from the writing perspective than there is from the actor's perspective, because uh, during my studies I was told in writing and devising things that the most personal story is the most universal, and obviously if you're trying to write the same story for your most personal experience, for a character, that's a very very different thing than writing something that's kind of vastly different from you, and you have no knowledge of what that feels like. But I think at the root of it, if there is a conflict that is important and that needs to be spoken about, and that can potentially help people either feel seen or feel heard, or understand what they're going through, then there's value in that. And even if it does, even if some people feel that it's inappropriate, or it's not really what the done thing is, then I think it's important to understand that it is a piece of art ultimately, and it's talking about people, and that there's 7-8 billion of us, and that's only increasing. So there's only going to be more people who need to hear different stories, and I think the more varied stories there are, the we can only find our limits by approaching them and delving into them. I don't think anyone wants to tell a story that silences voices. Um, I only think people want to amplify voices, but I like telling transgressive stories, and I like telling stories that are the ones that have the most impact, because they're the sort of drop in the lake of the stone, and then the ripples are right there to experience. Obviously there is a father at the center of it, who kind of doesn't understand the world that he is creating, and I think there's that story plays a lot to people that may be looking at the world around us at the moment and going, I don't get it. I don't get what's going on, and I can't figure it out. And I don't know why, and no one's explaining it to me in a way that I can understand. Um, but that, no, that's why these stories are important to have, and to try and reflect any kind of uh, different opinion and new version of the story. But it's that thing of I almost can't imagine being um, wanting to stay in their comfort zone, uh, for 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 the sake of it. I think I don't know. As a performer, I really just want the opportunity to explore the world of performance, whether that's in dance or movement or voice, or just or a combination of the two, or music, or in across any discipline. I just love consuming that, and when people take a risk, because I think that just brings the height of the tension straight to me as an audience member. When you're taking a risk, it's either going to be fantastic and oh my, so rewarding, more than you can ever kind of imagine, or not, and it might hurt a bit, and it might bruise your ego, and it might go, oh, actually, yeah, that's not for me. But at least I did it, and at least I gave it my best shot. I, as an actor, was taught that, you know, that being human is a multi-sensory experience, um, and our job as actors is to do what people feel and allow other people to maybe feel. That's, you know, kind of what we're about. So just using, if you just shut your eyes and just take a few deep breaths and just try and imagine a different place through what you hear, that's all we're doing. It's changing the way that we think. And I don't know, my background in psychology is definitely and neuropsychology is, you know, just loves the fact that we can shut our eyes and smell and taste and hear things. I grew up listening to radio drama, and feel like I felt like I was the only one that listened to radio drama at the age of like 18 on, you know, long drives. I mean, it's such a huge world of new possibilities that you can kind of take anywhere. And I think that's the joy of audio drama, is that you can literally listen to it anywhere with, you know, with headphones now. It's on the go, and you could, you know, you could be in Starbucks, and it's so versatile. It's such a versatile medium. I would say just keep exploring, because the world is much bigger than just Netflix and Amazon. It's not at all what you're going to expect. And I think that for me, that's what being an audience member is it's being thrown off. And if you want to be excited, kind of yeah, figure out something maybe about yourself, then go and give the chemistry lesson a listen.